This is the Television Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set.
Episode 10, recorded April 2nd, 2015.
Welcome to the Television Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set. This week we will be covering Advocates of Great Television. This will be the only thing we are covering this week. There will not be any news or any other impressions of what we've been watching. So, let's start the show.
Advocates of Great Television. All right!
Last week on the Weekly Set, we each picked one show, all four of us picked one show to be an advocate for and introduce to our fellow podcasters. Let's start off with Will. Will selected Deadwood and the pilot episode. Everybody was able to watch it?
Yep.
Okay, so Will, last week you were talking about the reasons you selected Deadwood. Can you catch us up real quick?
Yeah, I selected Deadwood because I thought it's one of those really good HBO shows that they aired a while back that I thought that maybe not everybody here had seen. And so I thought that was maybe a good show to introduce, to promote amongst the group.
So I'd seen Deadwood before myself, but I rewatched it to catch back up so I could be current with it. It's been years. What did you guys think, Lee, Kat?
I had a really hard time with it. And I'm willing to admit a large part of it, I think, is just me, is I really don't do well with Westerns. And I spent the first half of the pilot episode going, I can't understand what half of these characters are saying. And I couldn't discern if there was a plot, so I literally walked away from it going, I don't even know how to respond to that.
Well, language is a big part of the show. It uses a very weird structure to the way the dialogue is spoken. It's kind of Victorian, and you know, it crosses that with just horribly foul language.
Yes.
Sure. Well, and I feel
worse
like they
than
all
what you could imagine.
had,
Yeah.
Most of the characters had really hard to understand accents. The only ones I could really consistently understand were the pair from New York, that couple from New York. I was like, oh my gosh, finally people speaking English I can understand. So, yeah, largely not my thing, but I'm sure it's a great show, but Westerns really aren't my genre.
Westerns really aren't my genre either. I guess it's the historical aspect. It's kind of like, since it's based like on real history, it's kind of like the window in time thing fascinates me about it.
I can see that.
Yeah, pretty much all of those characters were legitimately real people that actually happened to cohabitate in Deadwood at that exact time. So, Wild Bill Hickok, of course, real famous, cowboy in history or figure like that. With him, the woman that was with him is Calamity Jane. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Oh, cool.
And Seth Bullock, the guy that Timothy Oliphant played in it, another kind of well-known historical figure. And the guy that ran the bar prostitution house thing is Al Swearingen, who is a real figure as well, prominent in Deadwood. So pretty much everybody in that show was actually in Deadwood at the same time doing that. So just interesting in that sense.
Right.
Lee, what did you think?
I couldn't get into it either. Like, I've never been a huge period person either. I did try to read the synopsis several times to understand the gist of the show.
It kind of just dumps you in.
I felt like there was no, like, for me, it was very, like, disconnected. Like, I felt like they were just introducing characters and there was no, like, just very, like, linear story. It was very, like, here's a slice of this and this and this, and here's all the characters being introduced. But as far as an overall story, I didn't really think that there was like a very prominent overall story. But yeah, I was trying very hard, but I couldn't get into it either.
Well, in the rest of the series, there is some story that kind of develops, but it's mostly about kind of these weird relationships between these characters. There's characters that kind of hate each other, and sometimes there's like a begrudging respect between them, and it's just kind of about this town that's essentially lawless and how it can function.
Yeah, I noticed that there was a lot of like status and like respect out of like reputation. That was very interesting to see. The way that when someone walks in, like everyone in the room would have that reaction because of who they are. Like everyone, because it was a small town, like everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
And stories...
Everybody knows Wild Bill Hickok, and yeah.
Stories tend to spread really quick. Like one guy would say, oh, I saw the family get murdered. And then just like, 10 minutes later, the whole town knows.
Yeah. I like the show a lot. It's kind of a weird show to just kind of come in with like one episode like this. And, it's not going to be for everyone. But hey, now you guys can say you've seen Deadwood. It's one of those major HBO shows that gets a lot of acclaim.
Sure.
So
awesome.
Well, I have a quick question. I haven't watched a lot of HBO shows,
mm-hmm.
and the pacing of this was completely unlike anything else I'd ever watched. And like Lee said, like there is no through line in terms of plotting or anything. Like, is this common on HBO shows? To have such a different style?
It can be. I mean, Game of Thrones is a bit like that too, in the sense of, it just kind of skips around and showing you these different bits. And everything kind of starts to come together throughout the season. So it can be like that. HBO's gets pretty off the wall with some of their stuff. It usually doesn't have like a very strong focus. It usually has kind of a general direction it's heading, and then it's going there. And so kind of the general direction from the pilot on Deadwood is obviously that people are moving to this town. This is like this frontier town, and people are moving into it. And that's kind of it. That's what you're getting so far. So, I mean, I have to say there isn't a lot much more than that. It's kind of just about these characters and their relationships in that town and how a town like that can function without like real set laws, and like how, people that kind of are criminals can work with people that are kind of law, and how that all kind of functions together. That's kind of like the bread and butter of the series.
Okay.
So yeah, did you guys notice a lot of people in the show at least that are like, you're like, oh, I know them and them and them?
Definitely. I was
Everyone
actually
looked
kind
familiar.
of distracting.
Yeah.
Everyone looked really familiar, yeah.
Yeah. You got Bobby Singer from Supernatural in there. You
Yeah.
got,
Yeah.
Right,
Obviously,
from
Timothy
Lord of the
Oliphant, who now I can't watch that without thinking of Justified. I just,
yeah.
that's Raylan Givens.
You know what I didn't even notice the first time I watched, but it's, God, what's his name? I think it's Dylan Gillihunt, who was in, he's just been in so much stuff. He was in Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles, you'd know Will. And he was in, he was on Raising Hope. He was like the dad on that show. I don't know if any of you saw that. I'm trying to think of, he's been in just a lot of kind of like little roles here and there and stuff. And he was on this season of Justified as well. He was the militia guy with the beard.
Oh, yep.
And he's the guy that kind of was kind of antagonizing or getting antagonized by Wild Bill Hickok at the poker table.
Well, I noticed like several actors from Deadwood appear on Justified as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah. It seems like Justified borrows a lot of actors from Deadwood too.
Yeah. Well, some of those people, they just have that Western look, and you just know they're gonna do lots of Westerns.
Right,
exactly.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't even know his name off the top of my head, but Bobby Singer, I'll just refer to him as, because that's how I know him. Yeah,
Yes.
Jim Beaver.
That's how I know him as too.
He's gonna
Bobby
be in.
Singer.
Yeah, if there's a Western, TV show or something, he's probably in it.
Yeah, he's probably in it.
He's just too good for that. He has the voice. He has, the right look.
I think he was in Justified as well for a season. I mean, yeah, so it was, speaking of Sarah, I was so disappointed that wasn't available anywhere, because I thought maybe the group would have enjoyed that more. That's why that was my first pick, but...
Yeah.
Well, if it's ever available, I would totally be interested in trying Sarah Connor Chronicles, so if you ever find a way to do it, then next time we do one of these, then totally pick that. I love it.
Definitely. Best.
Maybe I'll just bite the bullet and just buy it for us all. I mean, it's like $2 or something. So.
All right. Awesome.
You know,
You'll
for an
take that
episode.
bullet for us.
You'll take that bullet.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd be able to do it with all of us picking a show that way, but start to multiply up there. But like on a special case, you know, I could do something like that, I guess. Let's move on then from Deadwood. I enjoy Deadwood. I love Deadwood as a series, and it was kind of cool watching it again, seeing all these people that have since Deadwood have kind of moved on to these other things and seeing them.
Yeah, that was really awesome rewatching it and noticing more people than like the first time I watched it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't notice. You guys aren't gonna watch any more Deadwood, I assume.
No.
So I can spoil one thing like that I kind of noticed watching the pilot again, which was that the guy that was having that kind of antagonistic verbal thing going on with Wild Bill at the poker table that I said was Dylan Gillihan. He is the guy that ends up killing Wild Bill Hickok. And if I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That's the whole aces and eights thing. They call it a dead man's hand.
Yeah, if you're
You ever heard that?
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with his kind of history.
If you're a
But
student,
have you ever heard that expression, or a dead man's hand?
Yeah, I've heard that expression.
Yeah, that's because Wild Bill Hickok was killed. He was shot in the back of the head while holding an ace and an eight in his hand.
Right.
And like while he was playing poker. And so that's the guy that killed him. And it kind of sets off some major conflicts like in the town. That's kind of like the first major big point that happens
Right.
in the series. So it was kind of interesting seeing him already antagonistic with him, like in the pilot. And I don't think I really noticed him the first time until there was this like horrible moment where, the guy was just being kind of sleazy and Wild Bill just kind of laid into him verbally in the most like abusive and horrible way you can imagine, just kind of completely lays him to waste verbally. And, that kind of triggered that guy eventually killing him.
Yeah. Rewatching the pilot, you notice Wild Bill, they instantly have this antagonistic relationship. Wild Bill walks in to the saloon and he starts talking, saying, he doesn't impress me. He's talking to his buddies. Then Wild Bill looks over at him. He hones in on him, joins the game. So instantly this antagonistic relationship just happens between them two. And
there's this kind of tie to just the general idea that like, it doesn't matter how big you are, how legendary you are. All it takes is one person with a gun to your back of your head when you don't expect it.
Right.
This is just some kind of, cowardly small fry, and he ended up killing one of the biggest, like, real life, people in the West, like when people look at like the huge figures of the West, you think of people like Wyatt Earp, but then you also think of Wild Bill Hickok.
Right.
He's like a major person in the West, So it's just kind of, that's I think the first major point on Deadwood, but let's move on from Deadwood for now. Let's go on to, let's go to Lee's pick. Lee picked Liar's Game, which is a Japanese drama. This was the first exposure to Japanese drama for both Kat and Will. Now, watching this, I was like, oh, I wonder how they're going to react to this. Cause it is kind of like soapy in a sense, It's kind of like soapy, but like really fun, so you could get kind of addicted.
it is.
It's very anime-ish. It's based on the manga, so it's very like, it's got that cartoony, the way the pacing is very cartoony. It's spliced in a cartoony way. The angles are very cartoony.
Okay, I didn't know about that, but that actually explains a lot.
Yeah, I would say it felt like a live-action anime to me. It did very much. So it had the pacing, had the structure of a typical anime. So I was able to easily get into it, just go with it.
So did you get hooked on it? Are you going to be continuing this series, Will?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. It was fun. I mean, I thought it was kind of goofy. Like,
yeah.
The girl is like unbelievably naive to like,
yeah.
she can't even set up her own bank account. It's
yeah.
When she convinced the con man guy by saying, "Is it wrong to be so stupidly honest?" I said aloud to the screen, "Yes, honey, it is." There is no virtue here.
No, there is not.
Yeah, I've only seen like a few Japanese dramas, and it's kind of like I forget kind of how soapy and kind of goofy they can get. But it's so weird how you can get so hooked into them too, because it's all in the premise. Like they'll have these such interesting premise, and then, you know, it kind of paces very quickly, so there's never really a moment where you're just like, oh yeah, it's getting kind of slow, and then it kind of starts wearing off on you. It's like you're just kind of like, okay, what's coming next? What's coming next?
Right,
you know?
exactly. I want to see what happens next in this Liar's Game.
Yeah.
What's coming next? I don't know.
I didn't realize that this one plot was going to extend multiple episodes. So in the last 30 seconds when it hadn't been resolved, I was very surprised. It's like, okay, it's a season-long thing, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she basically plays the tournament for the whole, I think for 2 seasons, actually. So it's different. So there's more games, more plots, more games, more plots. Yeah, things like that.
Okay, and it's all her character? Is she the protagonist?
So you get to know more of the opponents, you get to know more of, like, her, and then you get to know more of him and their relationship, and, like, she's always trying to convince people to, like, to have teamwork and be honest, and he's all like, no, like, let's just con these people. But then he pities her, like, he admires her, he pities her and admires her at the same time, so it's like a nice conflict to see, yeah.
Okay.
It gives it punch. Yeah.
I spent the entire pilot episode just pitying her.
Her character is very, it is someone that you would pity, but, like, not all, like, Asian dramas or Japanese dramas are like that. Like, this is very, to the T of, like, the manga. Yeah, like, there's more realistic ones. There's more realistic dramas than this. Like, don't judge all dramas based on this one. Yeah.
Oh no, I wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't.
I remember a friend of mine was watching a Japanese drama, and I hadn't been watching it, and it was actually on, like, TV here or something. It was weird that, you know, it was on, like, PBS or something like that.
Cool.
And it was just like this 8-episode kind of soap opera thing, and I remember, like, coming in and just kind of catching a bit, and it was getting pretty dark, and it was about, like, this woman having, like, a miscarriage, and because this guy, like, pushed her, and then it was getting, like, really crazy, and then I was like, oh, wow, I have no idea what's going on, and, like, I had 2 friends that had been watching, and they were both, like, just completely hooked. Just, like, staring at the screens, like, you know, we can't leave until it's over, and then, yeah, it really is like a soap opera, you know, it's the only difference is that, you know, soap opera will air every day, every weekday for like 50 years.
Yes.
And this will just have like a real singular closed structure, you know? It'll be like, okay, will be like a 13 episode series and that's it. Complete beginning, middle, end.
The actor who plays the con man, I don't even remember names. I saw this like years ago. He does other dramas too, and he plays like the sort of like the same character, like a very smart, conniving character who like can see through people and manipulate people. So it's always interesting to like I always find him very interesting to watch in different dramas.
He's got the evil grin.
Yeah.
Right.
Also that hair.
Yeah.
He has different like that
over his hair.
That's very anime hair. Like he has like a normal hairstyle in other dramas. Like this is just like the typical like anime. I don't know.
Yeah,
like mushroom cap.
It's funny, you'll see that in a lot of Japanese dramas and stuff when they're based on manga.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of go too loyal to the manga as far as the way characters look.
Oh yeah.
Like sometimes, you know, like they'll have different colored hair, so they'll actually like dye their hair and it'll be like kind of gooped off into some weird direction, and you know,
it would
like,
be.
It's like, yeah, I know some kids in Japan have some weird hairdos, but it's like a bit extreme, you know, and it'll be like, this kid's a detective and he doesn't care about anything, but then he has this weird hairdo.
Yeah, I know,
like,
right?
It's like, wait, this guy just kind of wakes up in the morning and does his own thing. Why does he have this crazy hairdo? But it's just something that carries over from the manga. It's like if they did
a live-action Dragon Ball Z and had like that
Dragon
Ball
much.
Z hair.
Yeah.
That was the worst. That movie was so bad. Like, oh.
Yeah, did you know there actually was a live-action Dragon Ball Z, guys? Because there actually was, and it was horrible.
Oh, I scrubbed that from my memory. I'm sorry.
Is it so,
So
bad that
bad,
it's good?
so bad.
Horrible?
It had, what's her name was in it? It had the two people from Shameless, from the US version of Shameless, were both in that.
Oh, I remember her name.
Justin something? Can't remember. And,
Jamie Chung? Jamie Chung and...
Yeah, Jamie.
No, thinking of somebody else here.
The
Hold
lead
on,
actress. Emily something, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emmy Rossum.
Emmy Rossum, okay.
Oh,
Emmy
yeah.
Rossum and Justin Chatwin.
I would say so bad it's good. Like, if you want a dumb movie to just laugh at.
I'd say so bad it's bad.
Yeah.
Because I like so bad it's good movies, and then sometimes they're so bad it just goes beyond being good again, and it's just plain bad again, you know? That's kind of how I see the Dragon Ball movie, yeah. Pretty bad.
Oh, Jamie Chung was in that. Yeah. She plays the hot girl, yeah.
She plays Chi-Chi.
This is probably one of the worst live action movies I've seen, but nothing tops this drifting movie. I'll find it. But it was so bad. It's like it was so bad. It was so bad.
I've seen some trauma films that are pretty horrible.
Yes.
So if you ever get into trauma films, you'll see lots and lots of horrible. Usually it falls into that so bad it's good category, but sometimes it goes that extra step and becomes bad again.
The Liar's Game was good.
Initial D. That movie is so bad. Like, if you
want
want
the Initial D movie, yeah.
If you want to see something so bad that your brain, like, explodes because it's just, like, you just want to puke after. Like, it was so bad. So bad. So bad. Every time a movie comes up and someone's like, oh, this movie was so bad, I'm like, no. Initial D was bad.
Initial D
This is nothing. This is nothing.
I want to see the 20th Century Boy, like it was a movie trilogy that they did in Japan. It was based on a manga as well. It's a really good manga. Have you ever heard of the manga Monster? There's an anime for it as well.
Yes.
It's from the same guy that did that, and it's about, like, it's very Stephen King-like in that there's, like, this kind of, these group of children that played, like, this kind of game and made this, like, kind of secret society when they were, like, kids, you know? And then, like, they're all kind of growing up, and then, like, just kind of stuff starts happening that's, like, just really kind of off. And it all kind of bears the marks of this little group they formed as kids. And they're like, wait, this is weird. Wait, that's our symbol. Why is that there, you know? And so then they start coming to the conclusion, like, somebody within our group of friends is behind this. And they're, like, kind of basically plotting, like, world domination. And it's a really good manga. The only problem with the manga, in my opinion, is that there's too many red herrings. Like, it'll just kind of lead you to believe, like, oh, it's this guy. And then it's like, oh, no, it's not because of this. And then off to some other direction, you know, there's another red herring, and it just does it too much. But other than that, if it didn't get too caught up in that, it was good. So I'm interested in seeing the movies for that. They did a trilogy.
Nice.
But that's a little off topic. So let's go here on Liar's Game. Who's going to continue watching this? I think I'm going to.
I think I'm going to.
I think one episode was good for me. Anime and manga, really not my thing, and that's just fine.
I bet it's fun.
It's
sure.
fun.
So,
It's light and airy, and it has an interesting premise.
It definitely has an interesting premise. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I found out the 2014 version is also the same show, but a Korean version. So they made a Korean version of the show based off the same manga, and the main character, the girl, she's not, like, as naive, I guess. They took a different spin on her. She actually does want to steal the money and wants to, like, yeah. So, like, if you want to, I guess it would be interesting to see another version of the same show.
I thought the major flaw with the plot was, which they did address, but still, is that put the money in a bank account for 30 days and then take it out and give it back to them. There, you're done. I know they addressed that with the guy, and they had, like, her say, oh, I don't know how to set up a bank account or whatever. And I'm like, seriously? Just go to the bank and talk to somebody. They'll help you.
For that much money, yeah, they'll help you. They'll roll out the red carpet.
Yes.
Yeah. And not a safety deposit box either.
No.
Because then it's not on their record. If you put it just straight in the bank, then if anything happens to the money, the bank's liable, not you.
Yes. Yeah.
So why put in the safety deposit box?
Yeah.
And you'll build on interest, too.
You'll build on interest.
And yeah, I don't know if you guys know currency with yen, but it's basically, think of like yen as like a penny. So 100 yen is about $1. So when they say like 100 million, they're talking $1 million, basically.
$1 million. Okay.
Okay, I was going to bring that up and then I forgot and I thought, yeah, I don't know if you guys know the money amounts here.
The way they react to that much money, it's easy to guess that it's a huge amount of money. Like, I think the contracts make that pretty clear.
Yeah, it's huge stacks of money, and it's a big deal. I mean, I get it just from, not without knowing the exact amount.
Yeah. So, sounds like we kind of enjoyed the experience of it. Sounds like Kat's not in for continuing, but Will and I have caught that addiction that we're predisposed to as anime fans.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on. Kat, do you want to go or do you want me to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay, so Kat, you had Gilmore Girls.
Yeah. Now, I don't know, just up front, did all of you have an easy time following the episode? Because I realized there are quite a few characters and quite a few things at play.
I think I was able to pick up on it pretty quickly. What about you guys?
I think so. A little difficulty, but not too much. Minimal.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Gilmore Girls, so all the characters were pretty familiar to me.
Okay.
Best part of the show was Rory's girlfriend, Sam Winchester, who looks like a dean, but he's not Dean Winchester.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he went...
His name's Dean, yeah.
Jared Padalecki made the show before Supernatural, and he went straight over to Supernatural.
Oh, you can tell he's so much
so
smaller.
I saw fans just having a ball with that one. Like, I remember there was a forum that called them the Brothers Dean.
Oh, really?
It's funny because, Jared was so much smaller in Gilmore Girls. Like, not even just, like, for as far as muscle and everything, but height.
Oh, yeah.
That guy grew. Like, and I remember that in Supernatural, like, from first season to season 2, it was, like, almost like a different guy. Like, it's like he got height implants or something between seasons. And then, like, season 4, all of a sudden, he was, like, Superman or something. It was weird.
I don't know if that's true, because there's actually an episode of Gilmore Girls where he meets Rory's grandfather, who's also really, really tall, and they're standing next to each other, and they're the same height, and Rory's grandfather asks him how tall he is. Because Jared Padalecki is freakishly tall.
But even in that, in this episode, he was shorter than the father, They stood next to each other. Yeah, it was very strange. So he must have started his growth spurt, during Gilmore Girls at some point, and then they made a joke about it because he was so tall, and then he just kept growing in Supernatural.
Well, I think he was like 19 when he started the series.
I think he's about 70 feet tall now.
Yeah.
He just hasn't stopped. Pretty soon it's going to cave in the crust of the earth.
He's going to grow into a titan.
Well, okay, so I'm curious, like, what did you think of the episodes?
Oh, I liked it.
Overall, I did get that vibe that you were talking about as far as people comparing it to, like, Aaron Sorkin show.
Right.
I did get a similar vibe. And just the way the dialogue worked, I had heard comparisons before to stuff like, Buffy or Veronica Mars or something, but I got it much more of like like an Aaron Sorkin kind of vibe in the flow of the dialogue. I have to say overall, I didn't really like kind of the dialogue. Some of it felt a little clumsy to me, like, it was kind of going really quick, in the banter and it just wasn't hitting for me, So, but, like, the basic structure, the way that people were talking back and forth to each other, I don't know how to say it, the cadence, I guess, of their of the dialogue was very similar to like a Aaron Sorkin show.
I thought,
Yeah.
my impression was it was like more than just the witty dialogue. Like, it felt like there was a real relation there between the characters that the dialogue kind of complemented. You know, they could have that kind of banter between each other because they're so close. You know, that's what I took away from it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, so for me, I don't know if I'm going to continue on with Gilmore Girls. I'm glad I saw it because it's something that I've always kind of heard people mention when they talk about, you know, witty characters and stuff. So I'm glad I've seen it just for that aspect. But I don't think I'm going to continue on with it.
Yeah,
It's too Aaron Sorkin nerds for me, you know? Too Sorkin-esque.
Sorkin's a fantastic writer. For all that the guy has a persecution complex, among other things, he is a fantastic writer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really like this episode because I think it's, at least in terms of first season, I think it gets down to the meat of what a lot of the show is about. Because I think they have really interesting complex relationships. Like, I really like, for instance, I'm sure you don't have a sense of this if you've only watched this episode, but like, Lorelai's father stands up for her, which he never does, and then of course she goes to thank him, and his response is to say, well, I wasn't really doing it for you. Like, that they just have this incredibly tense back and forth, kind of impossible to fix situation. And I really like the way the episode kind of explores that.
Right.
I do kind of like that aspect of it. That's one thing I did like. I've mentioned before that I like cruelty in shows. I like it when characters will just do something that just kind of flattens you a little bit, because it's just like, wow, did they just really do that, you know? And I like the kind of drama that's created around that. So I did kind of like the kind of idea of that and the way it was done, and just kind of like the way that Christopher's family was just completely dismissive of the one girl's even existence, you know? And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like it because I think it's very very believable drama. I think it's a heightened situation that you would still see in real life. And I think the way that people are reacting to it, even though negative ones, are reacting in a very believable way.
Right. It's more down to earth than like your typical soap opera or drama. There's, no crazy situations happening or anything happening just because drama, unbelievable situations going on just to create more drama. It's very grounded, very human. And I think that works to its favor too.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the episode was exploring was a very awkward situation, but it's also a very common situation. Like, there's tons of, fathers who've walked out on their daughter and they're trying to sort of like reintroduce themselves because they've just reached that maturity point. But it's almost like, I don't know, I felt like the episode was setting up for failure. Like, they were getting your hopes up, but sort of like still setting up you for failure because you know that the dad is still irresponsible and still failing at his business and failing, like, still being that fun party guy, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Alright, so is anybody gonna be continuing on with Gilmore Girls?
I love the show, but I feel like you have to dedicate, like, so much attention to it because everything is just so fast. I feel like it's a commitment, like, to watch that show.
You can't have it on in the background.
No, you can't. You gotta be, like, turn off your cell phone, like, sitting, staring at it with your eyes, like, trying to, like catch everything as it's flying by you.
Yeah, like, when that show was at its peak, I think they could drop more pop culture references in a minute than even The Simpsons ever did.
It's so fast. It is. You can watch the episode, like, several times. Like, it's just, yeah.
They had that debate, The Offspring versus Metallica. First time I seen anybody mention The Offspring in a TV show, it was weird. I was like, okay.
They often argue about
it was weird watching Deadwood and hearing them mention Etobicoke, Canada, and I'm like, that's like the smallest town outside of Toronto.
And I was
Oh, in Deadwood, that's where they were saying where Seth Bullock was from.
Yeah, where Seth Bullock's like, I'm from Etobicoke. I'm like, that's like a tiny town on the side of Toronto.
Yeah, it's been there for a long time though, because he really was from there. So
apparently,
yeah.
Nice. So, I don't think I'll continue on with Gilmore Girls. I liked it enough, but not really my thing.
That's fair. I think it's very much a style that you tap into, and if you don't tap into it, that's very understandable.
I feel about the same. Yeah.
I'll probably watch an episode here and there, but I don't think that I can like sit down like every day.
I'm glad I've seen it though now, so I'm kind of in the loop when something comes up about Gilmore Girls.
Definitely.
You can say you've seen an episode now.
Yeah.
And for the record, I think Lorelai Gilmore is one of the best characters on television, at least of the 21st century. She's
really cool. Yeah. A really cool mom.
Yeah, I think from that episode I watched, Lorelai was probably one of the most likable characters I've seen in television, period. Because she's a very likable, very relatable person.
I'm glad to hear it.
The witty banter helps.
Who was the guy that was her love interest besides her ex?
Oh,
Like
the
at the end
diner.
of the episode?
That's Luke. But
Luke,
he doesn't become a thing for a few more seasons. He's
Yeah.
more just a friend at this point.
He came across, I don't know if it's the actor or if it's the way he's supposed to be with the character, if there's more to him, incredibly hostile to me. Was it like that for you guys? It felt like he was very tense, like he was about to kind of like burst off into a rant at any moment.
I thought that was...
Like at all times.
I got the impression that because he's her boyfriend, he's kind of threatened by Christopher's reappearance into her life. And so I felt like his hostility was just because of that, because of that kind of threat.
Oh, I got that. I got it from the jealousy, but is that like a side of him that you only see through that part? Or is it
No.
something that...
Luke always kind of serves as the one grumpy character amidst all the fast-talking, peppy, witty, passive-aggressive people around Sky Hollow.
people.
Everyone on the show, or a lot of characters on the show, are various shades of passive-aggressive and manipulative. It's a large part of what the show is about. But Luke is really grumpy, and he actually goes off on rants quite a bit. And what makes him and the dynamic of him and Lorelai really fun is she loves to push his buttons. So
Luke, for me, is a very protective character. Like, he really does care about, like, Rory and Lorelai, and he's very protective of that, and I think that can come off as, like, kind of like a little bit mean or a little bit, like, grumpy. But, like, yeah, he's a very lovable character and is always very kind and very, like, loving to Lorelai and Rory.
yeah, I agree. I think what I find appealing about Luke is that, like, he'll do, like, just the most sweetest, most thoughtful thing you can do, and then when you try to, like, thank him for it, he gets, like, he downplays it, and he gets really uncomfortable because he doesn't want that to be known about him. Like, he's a nicer guy than he lets on.
Yeah.
He's we'll get this reference. He's tsundere.
Yes.
There's a character type, Kat, in anime and manga called tsundere, which I believe it means hot and cold is what tsundere like literally means. And it's basically the character type is it's kind of like usually a girl that'll be like saying like, you know, like I don't care about you or something while she's like blushing. Kind of, you know?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Alright, so let's move on to my pick, which was Extras. It's a Ricky Gervais show that was on HBO in the West. It was on BBC in Europe, which happens quite a few times with some of the BBC shows. You guys were all able to see it?
It was a co-production between HBO and the BBC, right?
Yeah. HBO put in some funding on it.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think?
There were parts of it that reminded me of The Office. Like the awkwardness.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much later in the episode, every time he kept opening his mouth and continuing to speak and digging himself further and further into his role. I just felt like I was watching Michael Scott all over again.
It was, yeah, very much The Office in the way that the main character is like so awkward and and the fact that he just says and does these things that are unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I guess a very Ricky Gervais type show. That's what I definitely thought. I thought Stephen Merchant's character was really funny in this. I thought...
Oh, him, like, trying to put in that earphone with the...
Yes. And him, like, not being at all organized and stuff. I can kind of relate to that.
The worst agent ever.
Yes.
Well, and there were aspects of it, actually, the office scene with Stephen Merchant's character actually made me think of a Monty Python sketch. I don't know if I can quite put my finger on what it was about it, but it felt like something that could have come out of Monty Python's Flying Circus to me.
You know what? You're right. That's probably very much inspired by their brand of humor. I can totally see that.
I think it's kind of like that naturalistic, preposterous kind of thing,
Right.
The idea that he's just sitting there, he's got the phone in his hand, and he's trying to do this, and it's just this drawn out scene, that goes way too long, where anybody else would just kind of snap open the phone and go, okay, whatever, hello,
It's ringing.
And he's just sitting there trying to do it, and it goes
just,
away, and then he's
just trying
and then
to
he
get
just
this
seems
Bluetooth piece in his ear for no reason. And it's like...
Yeah.
And then when he's trying to, bring up the notes about the meeting, he doesn't, even stuff that he's told right then, he forgets right away. It's like...
That's the agent, right? Like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
The really tall guy with the
So
glasses.
I got,
Was this filmed a long time ago, or is he just really bad with technology and has a really, Windows 98 computer?
It's not that old.
Okay.
It's older. I mean, I think it's more recent than Gilmore Girls was or something, but it's probably, I don't know, early to mid 2000s.
Okay.
Maybe 2004, something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
Probably after that, actually. I think Office was around 2004, the British one. Yeah, this was his second series after The Office that he did. It was him and Stephen Merchant. The guy who played his agent is also the kind of co-creator of kind of all of Ricky Gervais's projects, including The Office.
I have never seen him in anything before. I've only heard him in Portal 2. So I was a little bit distracted thinking of Wheatley during that scene. Because I love him so much as Wheatley. He was so good in that role.
He's freakishly tall too. He's 6'8", I believe.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, he's very, very tall. And very lanky and skinny. Yeah.
Tall, lanky, skinny British nerd.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
So the Kate Winslet stuff, is that more or less how every actor is used? It kind of as in a very small role that's kind of off kilter?
Yes, it's usually very small roles. It's usually very vain characters, very kind of arrogant, or they're really kind of poking fun at themselves when they do it.
I like the part where Kate Winslet sees the woman with cerebral palsy, and she just says, "Now that's what you do that's another thing you do to win an Oscar."
Yeah, I thought that was the funniest parts of it, and it actually made me think of the Robert Downey Jr. speech in Tropic Thunder when he explains how if you go full retard, you don't get an Oscar.
Yes.
And she's like, if you do a film about the Holocaust, guaranteed an Oscar.
You're guaranteed an Oscar, yeah.
That Oscar with the Holocaust nun thing, that's the thing I was talking about last week. That actually happened. So after Extras, Kate Winslet did a movie where she played a nun in the Holocaust and she won an Oscar for it.
What? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Did she get the idea filming that episode? She said, wait,
Yeah,
I gotta call my
probably.
agent now and make this happen.
This Gervais guy's onto something here.
I know.
Comedy's best when it's true.
Yep.
Yeah. What did you guys think of it overall? Did you find it funny or?
Yeah, I found it funny. Yeah, it was very British humor, quick paced. I thought it was awesome that like Kate Winslet was just like groping herself and
Yeah.
doing the deed, and I was just like, wow, I love when actors can make fun of themselves. I think that's the best trait.
Just really got into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a funny show. Definitely, like I said before, very Ricky Gervais. Definitely go watch more of it, cause, yeah, it made me laugh.
I'm glad I got that. I was thinking, I think the funniest scene for me in that was probably in that episode was when, he had just picked out his clothes for the day, and he didn't know what he had picked out yet.
Yeah.
And then it's panning across, and you're realizing he's in this, like, Bible club meeting, and it's panning across to all of them, and then he's in this, like, leisure suit.
He's like, he looks like Elvis.
Yeah,
It's like,
I was actually kind of surprised it used that, because I feel like that's a typical sitcom trope, is getting caught in a lie and having to continue to stay in the lie in order to preserve others' feelings or whatever. So I was wondering how far they were going to draw that one out.
I was like, wow, this priest is really grilling him. Like, it's an interrogation.
I think I really like the way they did it though, because I think there's a very clear message there, which is kind of like that you can't like not be yourself, because it's insulting not only, it's not only are you denying yourself, denying people of seeing the real you, but you're tricking other people. You're putting them kind of beneath you. And it's only going to get worse and worse. And I like that, he finally had the moment where he had to come clean. I thought that was kind of a cool moment, that he finally came clean, and you could see kind of in his reaction that he kind of felt stupid for what he'd done. It wasn't like the typical sitcom, like, oh no, I was caught,
Right.
I'm going to run out of here. It was kind of like you see a moment of like real kind of shame and in his action.
He learned a lesson from that himself, instead of like just the audience learning a lesson or something. But
yeah,
thank goodness.
Right.
I hate it when sitcoms have to moralize to the audience. It completely undermines the whole purpose of the show.
It really does. Yeah. It really. And it's always so transparent too when they do it. It just makes it so off-putting and fake. It's like, no.
This person was caught doing drugs, but has been magically saved from doing drugs by the end of the episode.
By the power of friendship.
The story is, drugs are bad. Yeah, thanks to friendship.
Next week, the main actor from that role found doing drugs.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's like that episode of Saved by the Bell.
If it was a Disney show, that would probably be true, because all the teenage actors on Disney shows eventually go off the rail.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like, did you ever see that the old Saved by the Bell episode where they were gonna do like a anti-drug commercial or something with like some celebrity from a show that they all admired? And then you find out he's like this big drug addict and was like trying to get them to do drugs with them at his party and
oh yeah.
I still remember Sailor Moon trying to brainwash me into washing my face every night and taking a shower every day, and I was like, I don't need to learn hygiene from you. You're not even a person. Like, you're an alien from the moon. Stop teaching me about human hygiene. Get back to transforming into your slutty outfit.
Into your slut.
Like, every episode
if you
was like,
cleaned your face, you'd just be a big blur. Yeah, so are any of you guys going to continue watching extras?
I think I'm gonna look up like my favorite actors and then just watch those episodes.
That sounds like a good way to watch it.
I could see doing the same. Like you mentioned Patrick Stewart, I could see maybe watching an episode of Patrick Stewart, because he's always awesome.
If you just want the scenes, you can find those just on YouTube.
Oh, awesome.
Like there's tons of the celebrity specific scenes. The Patrick Stewart scene is hilarious. The Ian McKellen scene is really funny. The Clive Owen scene I mentioned, I highly recommend that. It's hilarious. The David Bowie scene is really funny. So there's tons of those kind of appearances, and they're really funny. There's a really funny Daniel Radcliffe scene as well.
Oh.
Where he plays like, a it's kind of Harry Potter-esque, but he's in like this Boy Scout uniform or something, because they're like on the set of him doing this, and he's like, always be prepared, you know? And it's this like really like super corny version of Harry Potter where he's like a Boy Scout. But like his version of himself is this like really horny kid that's trying to act all like he's with all this bravado. And he's like showing off that he has a condom and stuff. It's like it's like painfully, you know, like it's that what you'd expect like a kid that age, you know. It's really funny. So yeah, if you're not gonna watch the whole series, I'd highly recommend just kind of going through YouTube and finding those scenes, because there's tons of them up there, and they're pretty readily available.
I'll totally do that.
Totally, definitely do that.
Alright, so that pretty much brings us to an end here. That was our special Advocates of Great Television, our first podcast edition of that segment. It's something that I think we kind of enjoy doing around here, and we'll probably do more often. Next week, I'm gonna try to figure out what we're gonna do as our main topic. Maybe we'll talk a little bit. Oh yeah, we already said we're gonna talk about Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the 25th anniversary. Lee, did you ever watch Twin Peaks?
No.
Okay, so
Oh.
we might not have you on this one. So
Oh no.
when we had the roundtable for Twin Peaks, we watched Twin Peaks as a group, like all of us. We went through every single episode. And there was a movie that kind of follows Twin Peaks, and we decided, you know, that we were going to do it on the 25th anniversary of Twin Peaks, that we would watch the movie and then have a podcast kind of discussing the movie, since we had covered the series as a whole before. So
Can I get away with just watching the movie?
Sure,
Okay.
you know, that'll
It might
give you a
be
different kind of
confusing.
perspective.
Oh, that's
yeah,
true.
It's probably going to be very confusing.
Yeah,
It's David Lynch, so it's very,
Oh.
very odd.
without the context, you're
Alright.
probably gonna be...
That's a great response to David.
I mean,
Lynch.
I'm probably gonna be lost, and I watched the whole series, so...
Yeah. So that'll be next week. I think I might make up some custom banners for the site and everything, and just do a full-on Twin Peaks
Nice.
week next week, because I think I'm going to do that for the top 10 list and
Cool.
everything. Just go all Twin Peaks out for the 25th anniversary.
Awesome. Sounds good.
So that'll be fun. Yeah, Lee, if you wanna join us and just watch the movie, that might actually be kind of fun to have somebody that's kind of unfamiliar with the show.
Yeah.
That's just seen the movie, which is supposed to be like so much weirder than even the show is. That like you're just
not
gonna be so
selling me
lost.
on this at all.
Oh, please watch it.
Please watch it and be
'Cause it's
Please
gonna
watch
be
it, but
hilarious
it's so
for
bad
us.
and so confusing.
Oh, we didn't say it was bad.
It's gonna be so great for us.
Okay.
Yes.
It's not bad, it's just weird.
Okay.
Because it's David Lynch.
Alright.
Alright, so that's kind of our homework for next week. Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me, the movie.
Do you know if it's on Netflix streaming?
I don't know how that's available on streaming. I'll look that up and kind of get back in contact with you guys probably tonight or tomorrow and try to secure a good way to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, well, that'll be fun. So that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you everybody for listening to the Weekly Set podcast. This was our first podcast edition of Advocates of Great Television. Everybody, anybody have anything to plug? Will, you are on Twitter at Voxel Hero, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I'm on Twitter at Tyson Gifford. Lee, are you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter at Lee Swiffa. L-I Swiffa.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'll have all of those links in the story if you visit the site. If you don't remember, you know, it'll all be there. Did you have anything else to plug? Because last time you plugged the Make a Gamer Out of Lee.
Yeah, Let's Make a Gamer Out of Lee, L-I. It's a show where I am a girl who's never played video games, and then I have a video game spirit who starts to haunt me and then tries to make me into a gamer. Chaos ensues.
Also starring Jason, who's works on the Enthusiast Media sites as the COO.
Yes.
Kat, do you have anything to plug? You have any stories coming up on PlayStation Enthusiast?
One that I'm considering pitching, but nothing firm yet.
You do have a new article up on our site, though. Just recently you put one up.
Yep, about Arrow.
Yeah, and how it should only last 5 seasons. I didn't get a chance to read it yet because I've been visiting my dad and it's been travel and I'm like way behind. I got back and my DVR's got like 50 shows on it.
Understandable.
But I'm looking forward to reading that. I think 5 shows is usually a pretty good run for most kind of serialized shows.
Yeah, 5 seasons is a pretty good run, especially if they're going to keep doing like spin-offs and stuff like they're doing. Then I think it's probably good to like end Arrow like at a good like point, like 5 seasons, and continue on with like the spin-offs. And that way, maybe, you know, they don't overburden themselves by having like 5 shows on at the same time that all relate to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I agree. And I think also it's more, it's important specifically for Arrow because its premise is only set up for 5 years. And if they go past 5 years, they're going to start violating the premise.
That's true, unless they just stop having flashbacks. Because,
But I think they're still going to, that's going to violate the premise.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we don't have to get into this right now, but
So
definitely.
I'm looking forward to reading that article. You can visit. I'll put a link directly to the article in the article for this podcast on the site.
great.
So you can visit us at tventhusiast.com and you can read all of our lovely articles. Thank you everybody for listening. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@tventhusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage of all of your favorite shows. 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 Of all